The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
We're black. Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm Carlos.
And I think I saw CJ somewhere out in the hinterland of there he is. He's speaking, but he has no voice.
They need to turn up my input.
Yeah, we'll turn it up a little bit more because we can barely hear you.
Not me.
Okay. All right. Technical difficulties again. But, all right. Hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everybody it's September 11th, and we should all pause today to remember what happened 14 years ago today. It was a very, very difficult day for all of us. There were 343 firefighters that died, all the civilians, all the public safety personnel. There were a lot of casualties that day. A lot of Americans died. So at some point in time today, let's reflect on that, and let's never forget that and the sacrifices made on that day. Okay, so with that, let's get down to business.
Well, you know, Chip, with that about the 9/11 celebration, I was very surprised that there wasn't a lot of information beforehand on what memorial celebrations were going to happen in Fall River. I know that Carlos found out about it only yesterday, and I think that obviously this is an important issue when the community doesn't know when we're having a memorial, I don't want to call it a celebration, but a memorial to honor those people who gave their lives in defense of this country, who were civilians and who were public safety personnel. But our city and its appropriate administration and department heads couldn't notify the general public via various media outlets. And I think that's shameful.
Yeah, we had one on the first anniversary and everywhere thereafter. I actually was in New York on the 10th of September, scheduled to be there till the 12th, and we came back early. And but we always have a celebration. Obviously, it's a very memorial. It's a very a very difficult day for all public safety employees because, as I said, that's the largest loss in the history of the fire service. 343 men died that day, and most of them knew they were going to die when they were going there. And so it's a sad, it was a sad day, and I think the remembrance of that, we always see these things we will never forget, but unfortunately, I think it's up to government to always remind the people, that these days are days where everybody in the United States, regardless of what their political affiliations were, what their philosophies were, everybody pulled together, everybody joined together, and we were one nation, and in time of crisis, that's necessary. And it's good to remind the people that, sometimes, we talk a lot about politics and we get involved in a lot of politics and we do pick sides, but ultimately, it's about this country. It's about trying to make this place a better country. And days like today is a day where we need to have memorial services to remind everybody in this nation that it's a time to come together and remember that there are things that transcend politics and every other issue we have. We are Americans, and this is our country, and this is a day that we remember the sacrifices that were made on this day. and the tragedy that occurred on this day, just as we commemorate the 4th of July and the birth of our nation. This to me is one of the most important days that we have in this nation, because it was a major attack on American soil, and that is that is something that we should never forget. And we should also never forget, as I said, not only the tragedy but the triumph, the fact that this nation banded together, everybody from every political affiliation and every race, color, and creed, all came together, and they were Americans first. And so we should remember that today, especially today.
And I attended the ceremony today, and I have to say, I think it was good that I knew about the ceremony yesterday, and I will be able to make it this morning, because it doesn't matter how many years passes. When 8:35 comes on our clock at 9/11, we feel the same thing that we felt 14 years ago. And I think we're not gonna forget for a long, long time. One thing that I liked was we had a lot of kids from the schools there. They had at least 3 or 4 schools. They have kids there, and that kind of gave us the new, that this will go on forever. That this is not going to be forgot, because those young kids that participating on this event will bring on for generations to come, and I was very happy with that. I did heard on the radio too. I don't know if you had a chance that 13,000 kids were born. So 13 new American citizens were born in 2001. And they formed a group. One of the firefighters' brothers formed this group, and they were in New York this morning to ring the bells. So,
yeah, well, it is a day that we have to remember, and it's a day that really, it's something that reminds us of the overall. Of the overall perspective we should have, that we can argue a lot about politics, and we can disagree a lot, and we can argue, but in order to make this nation great, we have to at some point in time always band together, and and it's always about us first. And the fact is that it's a difficult day. I actually knew some of the guys who died at that fire. Actually, the Secretary Treasurer of the International Association of Firefighters at the time was Vinnie Bolin, who was actually a lieutenant on the Manhattan Ladder Company, the first arriving ladder company that went to the Twin Towers. So it was especially I was on duty that day. I was supposed to be in New York, but I came home early, and I was on duty when the Twin Towers. I watched it on television, and it's something that we'll never forget. We have images of Pearl Harbor, and now we have images of this. 2 of the most heinous attacks ever on the United States. But that's what we've got to do. Today is a day we all remember. But we all remember we're Americans, and we're trying to make a better government, and now we can get into some government stuff, right?
Yep. So, and we are a stronger America today than we were 15 years ago, because believe it or not, what they thought they were going to destroy unite us even more.
Yeah, and I think this year's a banner year, because with the Donald. and with the Donald and Hillary beginning to slip in the polls, even though I'm not sure if that's going to be we're on national, but I think it's effective, because we're a microcosm. I think that Hillary, I was watching the national news last night, and believe they said that Hillary has 80 people working in Ohio right now, and that's more than all the other candidates have working in their entire staff. So she's got the money, she's got the backing. We'll see what happens. It's a very long campaign season. And just as with Donald, everybody's saying, Donald's a flash in the pan. But you know something? the great thing about Donald and what's going on now is it's sparking debate. It's making people think. It's making people, you know, formulate opinions and not just listen to the pablum. And that's what's really good about it. And it's the same thing here in Fall River. We can't forget. They're going to try to have all kinds of these dedications, and all the politicians are going to show up that haven't showed up in a year, that were late for every meeting and left early or didn't show up at all. And they're all going to be there and they're all going to put their face in front of a camera. And we've got to remember that we've got to look at what's happened this year, not the hot dogs and the clam boils and the dedications that they're all at now and the parades they're marching in front of. It's about performance. What have you done, you know, for the people in this year? And I think that when everybody opened their trash fee bill, they got reminded, which was a good thing. I think the timing of that was very good. I think that they, you know, I've heard a lot of complaints over the last few days about the trash fee, and also about the fact that you only have less than a week to get an abatement. And is that really intentional? Did they do that intentionally, so people would not get an abatement for their apartments? Because they didn't send you the abatement form. You have to read the back of the letter, and it tells you you've got until the 15th or something like that to get an abatement. And I privatize, because as I said before, I won't give the city one more penny than I have to, because they've proven they can't handle my money. But the fact is that there are going to be a lot of people that miss this abatement. And there's going to be a lot of controversy over this, because people didn't get this bill until Tuesday because of the holiday, some on Wednesday, maybe some even on Thursday, you know, maybe yesterday. And they've only got 4 days to get an abatement, go down and get the paperwork, fill out the paperwork, do what they've got to do. And I don't know if that was by design or just incompetency, but you know, the people are not happy. I don't know. What do you guys? Have you guys heard from anybody about this fee?
Well, interestingly enough, I received a few phone calls over the week since Tuesday, especially from one woman who had privatized her trash. She went down to City Hall with her bill from her trash company and had opted out, obviously, and they sent her a bill. So she called up and said, look, I opted out. I filled out the form. And they said, and I'm going to quote her now, and I have it in an email still, because she sent me it by email after I spoke to her on the phone. She said, the woman who answered the phone was rude. She told me that I have to come down to City Hall with a copy of my bill and contract and fill out the opt-out form. And she says, I already did that. And she said, that doesn't matter, you have to come down here. She said, so because of your mistake, I've got to go down there and fill out paperwork. She goes, yes. And she said, well, I shouldn't have to. And the woman says, well, you have to, and she hung up the phone on her. Now, I'm not sure who that could have been in DPW or DCM, but, I mean, this is how the people of Fall River get treated at most departments. You know, I think the only department that doesn't treat people badly on a regular basis is probably the city clerk's office. They're probably the sweetest people in the world. But, you know, we got a law department which can't do anything for us. We now have a city collector which doesn't want to hear your excuses, but just takes your money. And God forbid you send it by EFT, because they're going to reject it. They only want a check or a credit card where they can gouge you on the fees. The treasurer's office, which wants to gouge everybody on fees because they don't have enough money. And then you have DCM now saying, come down here and fill out the paperwork. I don't care if it's my mistake. Is this how we run Fall River?
Well, we definitely don't do it in the best interest of the people. That abatement form and that bill, it says right on it, if you don't get it in on time, you're going to pay 14% interest. That's almost a credit card. That's almost usury. And then it gets turned over. If it goes into a lien process, it goes to 16%. Ridiculous interest and a ridiculous time parameter to get this job done. Isn't it amazing how government can take 10 years to do a job that private industry can do in a year? and they never get pressed for time because it takes them decades and sometimes a half a century to do what, well, they've been working on the Braga Bridge for like 30 years, and it's still not finished. It's not even half. They got to repaint it because they used the wrong paint, and it's just a travesty. But the citizens, the taxpayers, they make mistakes. You have to go down or inconvenience yourself. And it's funny because, ironically, I had this conversation with someone who was a retired city worker at yesterday's retirement meeting of the Municipal Retirees Association. And they were saying how in the old days, we had the same people that worked in City Hall for 30, 20 years. Everybody knew everybody. You'd call up and you'd run into somebody that was at there, and they would say, hello, how are you? And they'd take care of your problems. And if you called, you got answers. And what's happened in the recent years is all these mayors have come in now, replaced all these people. These people have retired, and we get this turnaround. We get these people in there for 3 or 4 years, and then they move on, and they get their department changed. And there seems to be a total insensitivity to the taxpayer because they're on the dole, and they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care what happens to you. And you see it on a personal level, like this lady did, and we also see it on a business level. Because you've seen it on a business level, Carlos, and you've also seen it as a neighborhood association leader, that there seems to be like, hey, tough luck. It's my way or the highway, and we don't care if it's inconvenient for you. Yet they'll turn around and say, Fall River, we're trying to bring business in. Well, and we're trying to bring people in. And realistically, who wants to go to a government center where the people treat you like hey, I'm not working for you. You've got to do what I tell you. Otherwise, I'm going to tax you even more.
This is the same thing as you walking into a store and you've been bad treated by the employees, and you're never going to go back there again. And guess what? Those employees it's gonna get fired because what's going on in here? I'm losing my customers, instead of getting more customers. And that's exactly what's going on at City Hall. It's exactly the same thing.
You can't get fired in city government. You know that. You can be rude, obnoxious, anything you want. You can not, and in Fall River especially, you don't have to provide anything. You don't have to do anything. There's no accountability. So how can the people say that they're getting their money for it? They're not, and we know that. And that's the big problem we have. But a couple of things just popped up. Before the show, I received a press release from the Swansea Mass Rhode Island Emergency Vet Office, which is handling the dog which was stabbed yesterday evening at 7:30 on South Main Street. On 9/10/2015, Smokey, a 3-year-old male bull-nosed pit bull, was presented to the Mass Rhode Island Veterinary ER in Swansea for multiple stab wounds around his neck and chest. He had lost a large amount of blood and was very shocky at present. Chest x-rays revealed that he had a penetrating chest wound which had partially collapsed his right lung. Smokey received emergency surgery overnight to control the bleeding and close the open wounds caused by the stabbing episode. He has required no definitive treatment for the lung collapse as he is still breathing comfortably. At this time, Smokey's condition has been upgraded from critical to serious. Smokey is expected to remain in the hospital for the next few days for ongoing treatment and monitoring. Thank you, Mass Rhode Island Veterinary ER, Dr. Michelle Lampy, DVM. So, I mean, this is what Fall River is coming to. We have a registered sex offender who is alleged to have done this to the dog, and the allegations further go in that he did this so that he could gain a gang sign tattoo. Now, people in the neighborhood, and this was up around Birch Street on South Main Street, were in an uproar. And as a matter of fact, Councilor Pat Casey showed up. And as you know, Pat Casey has a grooming business. She's in that neighborhood. She showed up to help control the bleeding of this animal. And I find it amazing, and I find it very thankful that these people were there to help out this animal and this animal's owner. This is a very shocking situation for the owner and obviously for the animal. But isn't it amazing that as a community, we can come together and reach out for the injury of an animal. But as a community, we can't come together to become so politically cohesive to affect change in our community. It speaks volumes to the importance of community cohesiveness, though. And I think that we need to take this one small episode, which was hateful, and personally, I think the laws in this state are not strict enough or strong enough to enforce animal cruelty. But I think that we need to get together and take on the compassion and the love that we've expressed towards this woman and her animal, and come together and express that for the betterment of the city of Fall River.
Well, you know, you're right, CJ. And it's ironic that yesterday on the news they showed a dog that had starved to death, basically, and they found it in a PetSmart parking lot, and they brought the owner in, and they showed a picture of the emaciated dog. They attempted to save it, but they had to put it down, and it was deplorable to look at that poor animal. And you know, this says something about the society, because Gandhi once said, "You judge a society by the way it treats its animals." You know, and when you have a total disregard for the life of an animal, you have a total disregard for life, period, because Gandhi was right. You know, they find that most serial killers and psychopaths have histories of abusing animals before they began to kill people. So, you know, Gandhi was right. It was prophetic when he said, you know, you should be judged, society should be judged by the way it treats its animals. And I'll tell you what, this clown is fortunate that I didn't come on the scene, because I would have imposed Hammurabi's code on him. I would have stabbed him about 86 times in the forehead. And I'll tell you what, people like this, you're right, there should be much severer penalties. But it says something about our society, it says something about our city, and it also says, you said something that's very telling. It was about getting a gang tattoo. You know, and again, you know, people say that we talk about, you know, we're negative when we talk about Fall River. No, we're realistic. These problems exist. We have to deal with this problem, and we have to come together as neighborhoods and as citizens of Fall River and stop this kind of stuff. And we have to deal with this as a community. And we have to have some kind of program where we can deal with the police and let them know, and we can't just bury our head in the sand and hope it doesn't happen to us. We've got to get involved, and we've got to change this city. This city has major issues, and if you want to listen to the you know, the Pabla meeting, Kool-Aid drinking, you know, people that just cop out because they want to be politically correct and say, you know, Fall River is always wonderful. No, you know, we live in Fall River. We like Fall River. We're still here. But we also acknowledge the fact that we've got some serious issues here. And maybe now, you know, on the anniversary of 9/11, and we saw what happened to this dog, and we see this, maybe it's time for us to come together as a community and begin to put people in our government that are going to help affect the change. Those people saved the dog. They affected something. But we can't affect our city overall until we have people in government who are going to work to eliminate our problems, not tell us how great things are going to be. We've got to stop the bleeding now. We can't have people getting baseball batted on 5th and Wade Street. We can't have people getting shot and just not doing anything about it and pretending it doesn't exist. And then calling the people who want to highlight this that we're spreading lies. I'm not spreading lies. Read the police reports. It's appalling what's happening in this city, and we've got to do something about it. And on September 22nd, that can be the beginning of the change. So I'm not, I'm really, this is, between the significance of the day and things like this when they happen, it really disturbs me. And because I remember once when this city was a pretty good place to live in. You could leave your doors open, and you could, you knew your neighbors, and it was okay. And now, they're trying to say it's still at Fall River, and it's not. And we know the reasons, and it's up to us to change it.
And the animals, and it's part of our lives. I mean, more and more we see it, how they become more than people. For some people, company. They save lives. They are good campaigns for people that don't have family. So, and it's terrible. I had 2 dogs that we had to put to sleep because they were 18 years old. They left 3 years with no eyesight. They were blind. But as long as they knew the pads to go to food, they're healthy, the only thing they had gone was the eyes, we treat them like our own family members. We treat them good, but became to a point when they started suffering more than living. That's when we feel sorry, we cry, but we have to help them. But was 18 years, and they will still remember today as they were still alive in the house.
Well, I know CJ's a dog lover. He's going, I've had dogs my whole life. The fact is, animals are part of our community and are part of our lives, and sometimes they have a more positive effect on people than people. And that's been proven in a hospital setting. And the reality is, as I said, reaffirm what Gandhi said. You judge a society by the way it treats its animals. People who have a disregard for animals have a disregard for people. And you know something? We can't allow people like that to be in our society. We have to incarcerate them, and if I had my way, I'd execute them all. But obviously, I'm a little ultra right wing when it comes to that kind of stuff. But but the fact is, that's the way I feel about it. And it's a reflection of how bad it's getting in Fall River. And we're not overemphasizing because it was a dog, and and it's important. It was a dog. As I said, they're extremely important in the way we treat them. But the sad part about it, that idiot would have probably done that to a person if the gang idiots told him that you had to do that to a person to get that gang tat. And the thing is that this kind of thing can't exist in our society. We've got to stop it. Don't forget our debate on the 16th, and don't forget to vote the 22nd. What?
5 days, Chip. 5 days.
5 days.
And the questions have already been vetted. We closed the question process last night. I know a few more will still be coming in, and we'll consider them. But it's very interesting to see what some of these questions are. And in all fairness, they all did come from the public. And I think that a couple of them were very interesting, especially the monikers they put on them, like retired clerk and Sparky the fire dog. I think that came from one of your battalion people, Chip.
I will say on the record, and I will take a lie detector test, I did not submit any questions. But after looking at the questions, it's apparent that some of these people watch our show and also listen and read. So stay angry and come to the debate.
Wednesday, 6 p.m., Cox Middle School. See you then.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching.
Thank you. Let's see. It's the one on the bottom of Bay Street, all the way down.